Hello and welcome back. I thought it was high time I dealt with this particular paragraph in Seys-Llewellyn's judgment for case 3SA90091, since Andy Lewis of the Quackometer, Melanie Bing, and even their free speech hero lawyer and friend Robert Dugans and their barrister Jonathan Price use it in online publications to justify their actions. Over time, during the hearing before me, the impression became irresistible that in truth, the second claimant finds it extremely difficult to accept that others may rationally form any view different from her own, and naturally, repeatedly, and very rapidly leaps to the conclusion and settled belief that if they do, they can have done so only out of personal hostility to her. On the face of it, this is damning, and implies strongly that there's something wrong with my wife. It's also a complete fabrication. Of course, I don't expect you to take my word for it, so let's take a look at some of the evidence before us. Let's start by taking a look at who Angel is. She's a highly regarded assertiveness trainer, having helped many women in deprived areas. She's a comedian, having done stand-up comedy, including a very well-received show about Florence Nightingale. She directed a comedy feature film and made numerous shorts. She got a first-class degree from Exeter University. She's a mother of 3 young girls, and she did all of that while managing a crippling walking impairment. Having stumbled onto a dangerous cult, she was instrumental in securing a landmark human rights settlement between our family and the Steiner school our children attended. Here's what some people who followed the story told us after its resolution. We commend you for how you handled the mediation. Thank you for being positive about making something good come out of it all. You're setting a positive example for all. Impressed not just that you won, but that you did so with such dignity and class. You're amazing. And here's what Roslyn Noonan, the former Human Rights Commissioner for New Zealand, said. Things change when people like you pursue issues. If you think about it for a second, no person who has difficulty to accept that others may rationally form any view different from her own, unless it is out of personal hostility to her, would have been able to be involved in any kind of successful mediation. Essentially, everything Angel has done to this point has been focused on empowering people, educating them, and trying to help and protect them. You can't do any of that if you think every time anyone disagrees with you is because they're out to get you. So why does Angel's actual personality conflict so markedly with the judge's opinion? Well, it's because they're not dealing with who Angel is, but who Lewis and Bing and their accomplices wanted to turn her into. Allow me to explain. In order to exonerate Melanie Bing and Andy Lewis, Judge Seys-Llewellyn had to state at paragraph 226.3 that there was no evidence of them harassing and stalking us, despite all the evidence right before him, which he recognized as such at the pretrial review, as I showed in the strawman argument. In covert involvement, we saw that Seys-Llewellyn implied Bing wasn't involved in or responsible for the initial online attack against us by sidestepping the 17 pages of email communication sent while it was taking place, where she was fanning the flames and spreading misinformation to get those who were mobbing us to ramp up their attacks against us. He doesn't even mention the second mobbing we endured at the hands of Bing's friends on a different site. That time, while they were attacking us publicly, they were privately discussing how best to provoke us so they could officially and publicly ban us from the site. 18 more pages of email communications of them deliberately disagreeing with us and purposely provoking us out of personal hostility towards us, all ignored. Bing and Lewis also monitor who we're talking to and covertly warn them about us by spreading more of their lies, something I explored at length in previous videos such as covert involvement, the consistent thread, quoting lies, and lies. Bing spread as many lies as she could, hoping that something would stick, like the fabrication that Angel is an astrologer, that she's a terrible mother and our children are in deep shit, that she's obsessed with the Illuminati, that I deal in pornography, that we banished my parents, that Angel's pretending to be physically disabled. The list of Bing's lies is staggeringly long, and as she said herself, there are lots of people who know about this now and they will tell each other. But let me know the minute you can see anything because I can probably do something about it. She wrote to Mark Haynes, I think you will have to say something to Jivan about Angel. Jivan Vasagar is a journalist for The Guardian. To Dan Dugan, head of the anti-Steiner site in the US. Their working methods are unethical and they are untrustworthy, and that anything else is a distraction. To Richie Thompson of Humanist UK, it's best not to give them any attention or RT their work. To Matthew Ford, a filmmaker, I advise you to steer clear of Angel and Steve Paris. To Ben Woolvin of the BBC, a warning that Steve is unreliable. To David Webster, Steve is unsafe, take care. To Matt Sims, be wary of Steve and wife. She stated that Lewis knows most of the big hitters, so he has put out a warning. For his part, Lewis told Kylie Sturgis they are best not engaged with. He wrote to Animals in Suit that they have malice at heart, and there is very low tolerance with some people for anyone who is engaged with Steve or Angel. To Eugene, the organizer of Lewis Skeptics, there are dangerous serial stalkers, and I try to avoid all encouragement. To David James, I think the best strategy is total disengagement. This has been going on since August 2011. And on top of all of that, they had also actively tried to sabotage the human rights mediation I mentioned earlier, which had nothing to do with them, but which was designed to resolve the situation between our children and the cult of Steiner. Lewis and Bing did all of this when my physically disabled wife was at her most vulnerable. At the time, we were struggling to deal with what the Steiner School had done to our family, and most importantly of all, having to cope with Angel's mother's sudden cancer diagnosis and imminent death. And let's not forget the immense stress put on Angel as she was forced to confront these people in a court of law. Not only had they smeared and stalked her for years, they were now casually lying about it on the stand, and they were being defended by lawyers who weren't charging them for the privilege and who were deliberately lying for their clients, as I showed in Effect and Cause and An Extreme of Possible Usage. Faced with the actual evidence, Seys-Llewellyn's general observation is pure deception, and Lewis and Bing's private communications clearly show they attacked Angel out of personal hostility to her and to myself. Like, for instance, "That's all I wanted, to piss them off." That was written the day before Angel's mother died. I am happy to give her a hole in the head any time. Getting a full translation on a UK blog with some profile would neutralize them and make them hopping mad. More concerning is if they get anything published in any proceedings. We might want to think about seeing if that might be worth stopping. Sid was, "But she's so polite." Hard to tell someone straight up that this is the politeness of the psychopath. I hope they engage with Pete some more. He'll provoke them. I think they're basically serial criminals. And if that doesn't convince you, don't forget the disability abuse and mental health smears they spread, using the credentials of a doctor to add veracity to those lies, as shown in mental health smears. This was used to affect people's opinion of us and color conversations we had online regarding Steiner education. Since when is any of that not personal hostility? On top of that, this general observation goes completely against the laws of harassment, which state that the essence of harassment is the tormenting of and the direct effect upon a claimant. The law is not supposed to ignore the harassment, then blame the harassed person for the effects of it on them. That is exactly, though, what you do in a witch hunt. It is shocking and beyond disgusting, and now that their harassment and stalking has been rewarded, they are using that paragraph to justify further similar actions. It's misogynistic gaslighting of the highest order, spread by humanists, doctors, skeptics, a free speech hero solicitor, a human rights barrister, and colluded with by judges. Angel's dignity and class in exposing a cult is obviously very threatening to the establishment. Renowned people like Dr. David Colquhoun and Simon Singh and so many others are perfectly happy to collude with this. These people who state loudly and often that we must all ask for evidence and that evidence matters, gaslight a woman they don't even know in order to help conceal their friends' malicious acts, their disability abuse and mental health smears, and to protect the cult. And they call that justice. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time.